Right, Stevenson to be followed by Mark Griffin. Up to 6 minutes, Ms Stevenson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Given Scotland's budget is tied to decisions on public spending by the UK Government south of the border, I'm sure members across the Chamber will recognise the importance of the upcoming UK budget. As Labour Minister Wes Streeton said, all roads lead to Westminster because decisions taken there have an impact on every part of the UK, regardless of devolution. In the past few years, Scotland has been dragged out of the European Union against our will. We've had to endure Prime Ministers like Boris Johnson and Liz Truss that people in Scotland did not vote for. We've lived through a pandemic and we're still suffering from the Westminster cost of living crisis. And as the Finance Secretary highlighted, prominent economists, including Glasgow University principal Professor Anton Muscatelli, are asking the UK Government to stop the underinvestment that has resulted in a vicious circle of stagnation and decline. We faced over a decade of austerity under the last Conservative government, and despite their protestations, Labour are continuing this by keeping Tory fiscal rules. But Labour should learn the lessons of the past 14 years and not repeat the same damaging mistakes as the Tories. Now is the time for UK Labour government, which has all the economic levers necessary to invest in our people and our public services. In a briefing published yesterday, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation was clear that this is essential because business-as-usual economic growth in the UK will not reduce poverty. Similarly, Shelter Scotland was very clear in its key asks of the UK Government: end austerity, scrap the benefit cap, the bedroom tax and the two-child limit, and increase Scotland's capital budget. Those are simple, reasonable calls for me. With all the powers that the Westminster Treasury has, those should be easy choices for the UK Government to make. But instead, we are told by Keir Starmer that his first budget is going to be painful. Presiding Officer, the SNP is calling on the UK Government to scrap the two-child cap and reinstate the winter fuel payment for pensioners. But Scottish Labour are today arguing against those ideas. Not content with continuing cruel Tory policies like the two-child cap and austerity fiscal rules, Keir Starmer's government has gone further and taken the winter fuel payment from thousands of vulnerable pensioners. Rather than delivering change, the UK Labour government is shortchanging the people of Scotland. The Labour amendment is also full of hubris. Back in Downing Street for 5 minutes, it seems Labour are already taking voters for granted. That arrogance is the mistake Labour made in Scotland in 2007, and it's why they are currently the third party in this Parliament. In fact, recent polling shows that most voters think that the Labour government is just as bad or worse than the last Tory government, while Keir Starmer's approval ratings are at their lowest level ever, at -26. Furthermore, than half of voters in Scotland think that the Labour government is not acting in the best interests of Scotland, and a majority oppose Labour's cuts to winter fuel payments. If Labour politicians don't want to listen to reasonable calls from SNP politicians or from experts and stakeholders, perhaps they should reflect on those poll findings and listen to the electorate, many of whom lent them a vote to kick out the Tories. To conclude, Presiding Officer, the Scottish Government motion for today's debate should not be controversial for any MSP who believes in fairness and social justice. Those of us in the SNP are quite clear that the Labour government in Westminster must scrap cruel Tory policies like the two-child cap and the bedroom tax, and they must put an end to the Conservative fiscal rules that underpin austerity. If these measures are still in place, After Labour's first budget in October, then those policies will become Labour's rate clause, Labour's bedroom tax and Labour's austerity. With policy choices like that alongside the cuts to winter fuel payments, it's clear that Labour, from cradle to grave, does not serve the people of Scotland. In contrast, the SNP is invested in the people of Scotland. In government, the SNP has created the game-changing Scottish Child Payment, championed the rollout of the real living wage, expanded access to free personal care and delivered free bus travel for under 22s, alongside older and disabled people. The SNP Scottish Government will always do its best with the powers that it has, but with Westminster decisions continuing to make life more difficult for households, communities and businesses, it's clear that independence is a vital necessity for Scotland.
Thank you.